you're 14, you watch videos of people on YouTube reacting to YouTube. I'll be the judge of when we get too meta.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is a morning somewhere for June 12th, 2024. My name is Freddie Burns, sitting right over there. He's back again. It's Scott, everybody. Say hi to Scott. Hi, Scott.
How's it going, man?
You know, somebody in the comments a while ago, we just on a random Q&A, remembered you from your first appearance on the Rooster Teeth podcast.
Yep.
We talked about, or so maybe I was talking to Jeff, and Jeff said, I said Scott, and he said Squirrel Scott, and I said yeah, and then someone was fascinated by the name Squirrel. Like, how did you get the nickname Squirrel?
Well, I think early on, I think it was Rick Miles. Can we agree that it was Rick Miles that gave it to me?
A friend of ours, Rick Miles from college, yeah.
Am I allowed to say that? Okay. So
That's okay.
yeah, I mean, the manner in which it was bestowed upon me was like Flounder in Animal House. I don't know if you remember that scene.
Yeah.
Where he says, your new Delta cow name is Flounder. And he goes, ask me why Flounder. And the guy burps in his face. But why not? And he did that like 35 times. Now, I don't know what made him do that other than early on, he realized that I was going to develop the personality that everybody has come to recognize me for, which is ADHD, trying to do too many things at once.
Did you not have that when you were a kid?
I think I've had it my whole life, but
Yeah.
nobody ever really, tried to nickname me for it.
Well, I think there was more outlets for it. I think the ADHD stuff became kind of more distilled, like higher concentration, once we ended up sitting in chairs most of the day.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when we talked about kids who were, we didn't say ADHD back then, we said hyperactive.
Hyperactive.
It expressed itself in situations where you had to sit still, which was always school and the classroom. And those kids always struggled in the classroom because they wanted to bounce off the walls.
And the main thing was you were disturbing lesson plans and stuff like that. I mean, remember what the drug was back then? It was Ritalin.
Ritalin. Is that not a thing anymore? Ritalin?
No, I mean, I think it's just been replaced by Adderall and derivatives of that. But I mean, the whole idea behind these drugs is when I found out they were uppers. They're uppers. They're not depressants.
Which is weird.
Yes.
Like, you'd think you would just give the kid a beer or something.
Right.
Knock him down.
Well, I mean,
Quaaludes.
didn't that used to be a philosophy of new mothers? They'd like rub alcohol on their baby's gums and it would absorb and put them to sleep.
Yeah, when you're a parent, people will always, especially older people, will always share those stories with you of like ancient times. Like, we'd rub brandy on their gums and then they would fall asleep. It's like, yeah, you basically drugged your kid is what you did. It is kind of shocking because I come back here to Austin and marijuana is not legal here, which is kind of shocking.
It's very shocking, especially in this town.
Texas is kind of like a oxymoron in a way because it prides itself on a lot of personal freedom, but it's also staunchly conservative, and it kind of walks that line all the time. But you think like that we would be, the state of Texas would be the most aggressive in like freedom of drug laws and things like that.
Well, what about the freedom to amass as much money as you can? I mean, how silly are we in the realms of drug usage and gambling? I mean, how much money are we giving away to the states right next to us? Every other state around us is where we're throwing our money for marijuana and gambling.
Well, Texas did have a lottery before most other states. The only other state I'd heard that had a lotto before Texas was Florida. I don't know. But I was a kid.
Don't we call that the per person's tax? Isn't that the old moniker?
So is gambling, though. It's like it's taxed for being bad at mathematics.
Well, but gambling, casinos and stuff like that tend to have people that actually have expendable incomes, even though it obviously draws in a different element and people are spending money they shouldn't. There is that. But lottery is a much smaller way to do that on a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, people just get really excited because now they get billion-dollar jackpots.
It's so crazy.
That are coming. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
What are you going to do with all that money? Well, half of it, whatever it is.
Yeah, people always do that. But, I mean, it's like if you made $1 billion, you'd get taxed on that too. You know what I mean? People always want to diminish a lottery winnings by saying, yeah, but taxes. It's like, okay, and I guess I won't take the money.
And you always hear people go, oh, it's the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I'm like, I think I could figure out a way to trudge through that.
The thing that people don't talk about with lottery winnings, I find, is that a lot of times the sum that they put out there as the big jackpot is the sum if you take it over the course of 20 years, which is another mathematics play.
Right.
And if you take it all up at once, it's not that amount of money.
Nope.
Yeah, it's far less money.
It goes from like 60% down to 40% or something. If you want a lump sum payment, it's
Yeah.
it's something insane. And you're still like, well, I'd rather do that because I can make more money investing it or doing something else. Plus, it's now money. You never know if you're going to be around in 18 months to collect it, whatever. I think the lump sum is always the way to go.
Hey, while we're talking about money and investing stuff, some current events news. Apple shot up yesterday in the stock market. Apple went up. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Apple, which already had an incredibly high market cap, went up about 7.5% in one day, mainly because of the announcements they made earlier this week. With their new iOS, they're going to be integrating ChatGPT. People can opt in to using ChatGPT as part of iOS. Then there's a lot of features that I love. They're adding a lot of things to messaging, making it more robust, making it compete with more things like WhatsApp. One of the cool things you can do now with messaging, which will help me and you, Scott, you can now schedule a text. So I don't have to get a text from you in like
awesome.
3 in the morning or whatever. You know?
I can say, which has always been a big deal for me. I have friends all the time that go, dude, what are you texting me for at 2:30 in the morning? I go, what are you complaining about? Why don't you set your do not disturbs for overnight like the rest of the adults and stop complaining. But people do that all the time. And my reason's always the same. It's like, look, I'm sorry. I mean, it's going to be a huge ball of anxiety for me if I don't get this thought off my chest. And like, if I get up in the middle of the night to pee or I'm watching shows or whatever like that, and I go, oh, I should really say this before I forget. Because if I forget, I'm going to be really pissed. So I send it out and I'm like, oh, they won't see it till 6:30 in the morning when their alarm goes off anyway.
You know, my problem is that I love this feature because I don't send the text and then it starts to drift down in my messaging client. And then I realize I haven't texted the person back in like 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
That sucks. So now I can just like write the reply and not feel bad. It's weird to have like a courtesy turn into like a discourtesy. You know, like, but that looks like I'm ignoring the text.
Well, there's also two other things to look at. We've become a society where we expect that we're looking at our phone constantly. And if you don't respond in 5, 10, 15, 30, you know, they're like, what the hell were you doing? Sometimes friends, they know you're looking at. So have you ever gotten a text before? As you're looking at someone else's text, another one pops in. You're like, oh, well, I don't want to respond too quickly for 2 reasons. One, I don't want them to think that I'm just sitting here staring at my phone waiting for a reply. Or you're like, I don't want to forget either. I mean, there's multiple problems with replying too quickly, I guess, because then they expect that.
There's all these like rules that we're just now establishing.
It's unwritten.
No, a technical problem that I always have is I'll be texting with someone or I'll shoot them a text going, hey, what time are we going to eat cookies at the mall? I just made that up, by the way.
Yeah.
You know,
what's the last time you did that?
And then I navigate away from it. And there's like some weird like limbo period where if somebody replies back to me right away, like right as I'm switching the app, the text comes in and I don't see it. Like I don't get an alert, but I'm also not in the app to see it. I don't know what that grace period is, but there's a lot of times with my own personal like attention deficit where I'll immediately go to something else in my phone and I'm like, they never wrote me back and I got to go eat cookies by myself. And then I go look and they replied right away.
Aziz Ansari has a great bit about that. He was talking to a new girl. And he's like, I gave her a text and then she texted me back and then I text her back and then she texted me back and then I text her back. And then I don't hear anything for 3 hours. What'd you do? Go lock your phone in a locker and ride a roller coaster? What's the deal?
Well, that was what we used to do. We used to call people. Their phone would be busy all the time. You'd call for like 2 hours. The phone's busy, and then rings off the hook. Like they hung up the phone from calling. This is back in the landline days. Hang up the phone and jumped straight out the window. So you were talking about watching stuff earlier. I gotta do this. I have discovered Scott and I have been working in close proximity to each other now for a week, shipping all the coins for the U.S. So if you were a member of our Patreon during the period when you were awarded a Mush coin, okay, we have good news for you. It is currently on its way to you.
And it went through my hands.
And we are working through... I also helped. Oh, I see. Because we all did different stages of stuff.
That's true.
It was like 5 different components of shipping this stuff out. And like we all had our stations.
Line.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, and then just to keep everyone's expectations in line, or realistic, I should say, we did US, Canada, Mexico. We're doing UK and EU later this week. And Australia is just going to take a little bit longer to get out to you guys, and Asia as well.
Yeah.
Asia. Not as many in Asia, though.
That's good that you actually laid out the chronology of countries, because that way some people won't freak out when people start talking about it on your message boards and stuff.
You and I, we talked about this a lot. We were worried about setting people's expectations wrong. And so we wanted to make sure when the US ones went out, they all went out bang, all at one time.
Yep.
That was fun. That was a fun process, taking all that stuff. That reminded me of the early days of Red versus Blue and mailing DVDs. But we've been watching TV the entire time.
Yep.
Right? The entire time we've been doing this.
A lot of Rick and Morty.
Well, dude, we watched so much Rick and Morty.
It's good because I hadn't seen season 4 and 5 since they aired the first time, and I needed to rewatch them.
And it was one of those things where Rick and Morty was a show that I feel like there was a small, like a vocal minority of a really big audience that really turned people against that show for a while.
That's because when it first started, and well deserved. I had heard about it too. It had a reputation of people being snooty about it. Like if you did watch it, you were part of an elite cult that got really highbrow and educated, intelligent jokes. And if you didn't watch it, ooh, you're missing out. So I avoided it for a while just simply because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to be part. And then I started watching. I go, holy shit, these assholes were right. It's brilliant.
It's a brilliant show.
It really is. It really is.
And we also have been watching a lot of stand-up comedy because Scott and I love that. And I was really happy. I got to introduce Scott to Stavros. If you don't know who that is, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. He's a Greek comedian, really funny dude, and he has incredible crowd work. Like he doesn't even need to prepare jokes.
Right. When you say crowd work, you mean he goes out there and he just flies by the seat of his pants and sees something in the audience. And that is the definition of crowd work for a comedian, right?
Yeah. You just it's when you go to the audience and go, hey, where are you from? What's going on?
Right.
You know?
I would tell you this. One thing you don't want to do is try to heckle this guy. Good night.
But he was it's weird too because he's pretty even keeled. There's sometimes there was one time when he laid into one guy for 5 minutes straight. It felt like.
Oh, it might have been longer than that. The guy with the headband thing. He's like, hey, dude, can you just take that off? That is really disturbing. The guy's sitting in the front row and then he goes, hey, does anybody have a hat this guy can wear?
He just got really upset that he was in his line of sight. But he's not. I don't think he's an asshole.
He was not trying to be an asshole. It ended up being a great bit. The guy was a good sport. I think he would have pulled off if the guy ended up, got up. Obviously, if he got up and left. But
so here's the thing I discovered about Scott while we were trying to pick what we're going to watch. Scott has seen, I think, every single show. Like, it was amazing to me the number of things he had seen. So I'm just going to start listing shows here to see if I can find one that you haven't seen. Okay?
I'm sure you'll find some, but then I'll
I'm
be able to replace it with like 3 that you haven't.
Absolutely. Have you seen Shogun?
Of course.
Oh, my God. Of course. Have you seen Silo?
Well, did you watch the Shogun of the 80s?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't watch that.
To be fair, Scott, in the 80s, there was 4 shows.
That's true.
Yeah, a week. That's the most you could ever watch.
4 channels for sure.
Have you seen...
The answer to your last question is yes.
Silo? You saw Silo?
Yeah, I love Silo. We're waiting for the... I think they just announced the second season, or maybe it's coming.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to look at my wife's. She actually keeps a shared note on the Apple phone about all the shows coming up with the release dates and all that stuff. So this is going to be my backup in case she asks me something.
Peaky Blinders?
Love it.
Seen all of it?
Yes.
Have you seen...
That's her favorite show. She loves Cillian Murphy.
This is going back a little bit. Have you seen Boardwalk Empire?
No.
Oh, we got one you haven't seen.
But I do like... that's the one with Steve Buscemi, right?
Yeah, he got punched in the face recently walking down the street in New York. So let me ask you this. Since you have seen so many shows, I tried to come up with one to stump you. And Boardwalk Empire was, 6 years ago. What do you think was the best show of the year? Or maybe the most underrated show of the year?
What, like this year? One of my favorite ones of all time was probably Ozark. That was a huge surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason Bateman has always been
You've seen all seasons of Ozark, too.
Oh, of course.
Have you seen Barry?
Yeah. Oh, God, yes.
God, man, it's so hard to find something in recent times you haven't seen.
Barry is probably one of the... So Barry was kind of like Louis to me.
Interesting.
They're not similar shows. They're not shot in similar styles, but...
Have you seen the Little Dicky show? No,
absolutely, Dave.
Good Lord. Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well,
go
it got a little weird in season 2 when they're staring at each other's buttholes and all that stuff, and that's they find out his friend has cancer.
Did Gavin go on the show?
Exactly. Oh my God.
So, if you had to watch, let me throw some shows at you that are coming out really soon.
Okay.
There's Severance season 2 is finished.
Yep, that was one of the best opening sequences I've ever seen of any show. We should just
the title sequence.
Yeah, the title sequence.
Yeah, you won't skip that one.
Fuck, that's awesome.
Severance season 2 is on its way. Boys is coming out. I think it's season 4.
Haven't watched the latest season yet. Is that not started yet?
Nah, it hasn't even started yet.
See, I didn't even know that.
Acolyte's kind of going right now, or any of those. It's a Star Wars show. Any of those you think are really exciting? Anything you're looking forward to? The House of Dragon
House of Dragon is Sunday. That the second season starts Sunday.
Are you excited about that one?
It's on our calendar.
Yeah, really? No kidding.
Yeah, Casey put it on our calendars so we'll probably eat in that night and make sure we don't miss it.
Casey is Scott's lovely wife.
That's correct.
And you guys like how often are you guys sitting down and watching the series together?
Well, her answer will be, well, whenever he's home, which is a fair argument because
Sorry, Casey.
I'm out a lot. But when we're at home together, we are almost always watching something just because it's easy to do while, even while she's working during the day.
Are you pretty dedicated when you watch show? I mean, this whole week we've been folding and stuffing and all that stuff.
Right. No messing with your phones. No,
Oh, yeah, you guys have rules.
Well, I mean...
Do you ever get betrayed? I got betrayed by Ashley once.
She tests you?
No, she started watching. She watched an episode
without you.
Look at that face you just made.
Yes, it happens.
You understand the depth of that betrayal.
Happens. She go like if I'll go out of town, like say to visit you or something like that, or like on a golf tournament or something like that, or the WSOP, which is coming up, or is actually going on.
That is the World Series of Poker.
That's correct.
Keeping score at home.
Yeah. So she'll go, well, I couldn't wait any longer, so I watched the next 2 episodes of blah, blah, blah. So a new season of something started last night, and we were like, we always watch 2 so we can get into it, and why can't I think of it? It was less than 24 hours.
Listen, Scott, it's a lot of things that are out there. Plus, you've been staring thousands of envelopes in the face for the past few days.
Not sleeping very well either.
Thank you. Why? What's wrong?
Well, 2 nights ago, I slept on your couch like a goddamn college student, for one thing. And then last night, I woke up at 3 and watched TV till 5:30.
Personally, I'm looking forward to Severance season 2 more than anything else. Although the next season of The Boys, it's never bad. It's never bad. And it's really funny because
Dark Matter. Did you watch Dark Matter?
I don't even know what Dark Matter is. Let me guess what Dark Matter is. It's a show on Sci-Fi where there's a town that has captured some dark matter and they use it to travel the universe via a wormhole. Stop
right there. It's about superposition. Schrodinger's cat kind of thing where like this guy figured out that you couldn't just have a proton or a atom in 2 positions somewhere interacting with each other at once. He figured out a way to transfer humans. So he had the multi. It basically was a simple way of introducing a multiverse using superposition as the premise.
Then what does he do? He goes on adventures in another universe?
Well,
with his grandson?
It starts when he's attacked in his home. Oh, geez. Oh, Rick. It starts when he's attacked. We find out early on by himself and made to switch with another universe. It's because a guy himself in the other in the other version of his world regrets that he didn't chase the woman down that he ended up married in this one. So he traded lives with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jennifer Connelly, so there's no way I was missing it. Mayor of Kingstown, apologies. Before I forget, I had to shout it out again.
Yeah?
It's like a middle of the night text. That's what we were watching. Jeremy Renner, Mayor of Kingstown.
Yeah, he's getting better. He's says he'll be, recovering for the rest of his life, he said, but he's going to come back and he just got cast in something just recently. If I had to guess, it's probably either the Knives Out series or White Lotus because they seem to cast everybody in those 2 shows.
White Lotus was interesting. We gobbled up the first season, and then the second season had a cast that I liked, a better cast as far as I was concerned. I didn't like it quite as much. But I'm assuming you and Ash watched that one.
Man, you're starting to embarrass me. No, we keep talking about wanting to watch it because the entire cast of the new season is like every actor and actress that I love.
Okay, so then maybe you'll think the same thing I did because that's why I agreed to watch the second season. I'm like, all right, because this was more of a Casey show than me, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go because I loved the cast, but I don't think I enjoyed the show as much.
So let me read this. This is from digitalspy.com. Not familiar with this website, but it says Knives Out 3 director Rian Johnson has cleared up some confusion regarding Jeremy Renner's role in the upcoming threequel. Filming is currently underway on Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, the 3rd film in the franchise. While he technically did make an appearance in Glass Onion, where his face was plastered on a fictional brand of hot sauce named Renning Hot, Johnson has confirmed that the Marvel star will take on a proper part this time around. Okay, so he's got something to do with this thing, but they're keeping it close to what they're keeping it under wraps.
I love him, man.
What he's got going on.
He's awesome.
Well, some other stuff going on in the news really quickly to do kind of a round out wrap up here. Jason sent me this really interesting article about just Jason Saldana, who was on the podcast earlier this week. He sent me an article about a study that they did in Belgium where it was for ride sharing and for Uber in particular was called out. I'll read it to you here. They took two people in the same place going to the same destination, and they noticed in the study that it charged more if the individual's phone battery was low. And what the surmise is that it's a proxy for a person who is desperate, needing to get home and needing to get their phone charged. Or the people who have low phone charge would be more willing to pay a higher price for the ride. That's fascinating to me because it's one of those innocuous pieces of data that the app can request it, because you want to say like, oh, before you begin this operation, you want to have more than 10% charge on your battery, right? But that data can be used for anything. I just thought that was fascinating.
God, I hate you whack job conspiracy folks. You weren't expecting that shit, were you?
Well, it's always follow the money, Scott. That's capitalism. That's raw capitalism. That's a great note to end on.
True story.
All right. Well, that does it for our week in Austin from Tuesday now to Wednesday. We will be back. I will be in Scotland tomorrow. I will be back with Ashley. Scott, thank you so much for your help all this week. Thank you for coming on the podcast twice now.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll be back on at some point in the future. All right, well, that does it for us. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Later.